I saw the image through the frosted glass in the door. It hesitated, moved backward, then forward. It hesitated a moment longer, and then the door opened, and she walked in. The sight of her almost took my breath away. She was gorgeous. I think the phrase drop-dead gorgeous was the best way to describe her. I got up from the table to greet her and, extending my hand to her, said, "Good morning. I'm Robert Dalton." She took the offered hand, shook it, and said, Sonia Harding. "Would you mind sitting down and telling me how I can help you?" She sat down and crossed her legs in a way that only women seem to know how to do. She showed off her long, slender legs and feet with 4-inch heeled sandals. I had not the slightest doubt that this was done intentionally. The lady knew what she had and used it to her advantage. She couldn't have known that I am a foot lover and that high heels are one of my greatest stimuli. I sat admiring the demonstration and waited for her to tell me why she had come to my office. Of course I knew why she was here, but I needed to get down to specifics. Knew why she was here? There was a sign hanging on the door she entered through. The sign said, Dalton Investigative Services, so Sonia Harding was obviously in need of a private investigator. She looked at me as if assessing me and then said, "I'm here to offer you a 2-week all-expenses-paid vacation to Maui." I laughed and said, "Oh, sure, what's the catch? You have to come with me." Still laughing, I asked, "Who put you up to this?" "In a way, I guess you could say it was your wife. When I found out that she was the one my husband was cheating on me with, I decided that the best revenge would be to do the same to her husband. But unlike your wife and my husband, I'm not going to hide it. The question is, will you agree to it?" I defiantly checked my calendar and then said, "My calendar is free until April 10th. It was March 3rd then. So when do you plan to carry out this revenge?" "I'm ready to leave right now." "Right now? You mean as of this minute? How are we going to do this? We need time to book a hotel, buy plane tickets. We have to pack for the trip and everything." "The airplane and lodging are already taken care of. What about the stuff? We'll buy everything we need when we get there." This must have just been a joke someone was playing on me, but I was curious enough to agree and see where this was going, so I said, "Okay, I'm in. Now what?" "Now we go to Maui," she said, stood up, looked at me, and asked, "Are you coming?" I got up and followed her out of the office, stopping only to lock up the room, and then followed her out of the building where I had my first inkling that things might not be as I thought. There, by the curb, was a limousine with a chauffeur leaning against the front fender. The chauffeur straightened up as soon as she saw us exit the building and motioned to open the back door. I followed her into the car, and as the chauffeur got into it and got behind the wheel, she said, "To the airport, Frank." The chauffeur started the car and we hit the road. I reached forward and closed the privacy panel, then asked, "When did you find out that your husband was cheating on you?" "Yesterday." "You found out yesterday and you were able to organize all of this in less than 24 hours. Nothing that money couldn't take care of." "Money? My maiden name was Westerbrook, same as Westerbrook Industries." "Then I guess you can afford it, but it doesn't make sense to me. Your husband must be out of his mind. I mean, you're beautiful to death, rich, and he risks losing it all by cheating on you. It just doesn't make sense to me." "Neither do I, but he did it, and he got caught." Looking at her, I remembered reading about it in the paper. Randall Westerbrook and his wife Regina got lost at sea on their yacht on their way to Bermuda. It was a big story because it involved the Bermuda Triangle. I remembered that the story mentioned that they had a daughter left behind, and I was apparently being taken to the airport with her. "What do you think your wife will think if you don't come home tonight?" Sonia asked. "How about we don't talk about her and your husband while we're together? Talking about them will only spoil the mood, and I'd rather spend time together in a good, no, better in a great mood. It's a wonderful approach to our vacation. Tell me a little bit about yourselves." "Ladies first." "Not much to tell. I was a cheerleader in high school, graduated, and went to Wharton to get a bachelor's degree in business administration, and then an MBA, Master of Business Administration, before joining the family business. I am active in several charitable and community organizations and keep in shape by playing tennis, swimming laps in the pool, and running 5 miles a day at least 4 times a week. I'd like to do this every day, but sometimes things get in the way. I like any kind of music except rap. And I have season tickets to the Broncos, Rockies, and Denver Symphony. Your turn. At an early age, about the same as you. I played soccer and baseball in high school, and after high school I went to Metro State to get a bachelor's degree in business management. But I got bored with school and dropped out and joined the Army. I ended up joining the military police and spent my last year of service in the Criminal Investigations Division. After I was discharged, I joined the police force where I worked nights and went to school during the day to get my bachelor's degree. After getting a degree in business management, I quit the police force because I was tired of doing nothing but writing traffic tickets. I liked the work I was doing in criminal investigation, so I decided to become a private investigator, and I am quite successful at it. She then inquired about what I do as a private investigator, and I gave her a sketch. It wasn't like some people think that I spent all my time following husbands and wives around trying to detect cheating, although there was that too. Most of my business was insurance companies where I investigated suspicious and fraudulent claims. I had 4 insurance companies that involved me in investigations as needed. By then, we were at the airport on the private jet side. The chauffeur pulled up next to a Gulfstream 500 with the Westerbrook logo on the tail. We boarded, the pilot got clearance, we taxied out, took off, and were on our way. Once we leveled off at flight altitude, Sonia asked me if I was ready to begin my revenge program. I asked what she meant, and she asked if I was ready to join the Mile High Club. There is a bed in the back of the airplane, and I, for one, am ready to use it. But what about privacy? There's a lock on the door. But what about the crew? Won't they find out? Of course they'll know, but they won't bother us. Mom, Dad, me, and my soon-to-be ex-boyfriend have always done that. But they know I'm not your husband. It doesn't matter. They're employees and they're paid well to mind their own business. But what if they tell the others? So what if they do? The whole purpose of this is for the crooks to find out about it. And I don't know how you feel about that, but to me, the more people who find out about it, the more humiliated Ralph will feel. I shrugged. If she didn't care, I didn't care. We walked to the back of the plane, opened the door, and I saw a small bedroom. Sonia started to shed her clothes, and I stood there watching. She looked at me and said, "I don't want to be the only one getting naked in here." "I'll join you, but it's not every day I get to see such a nice sight of you taking off your clothes." "Well, aren't you the devil with a silver tongue?" "Just stating the facts, ma'am, just stating the facts." When she was left in just stockings, panties, and high heels, she said, "I'm not going any further until you're as naked as I am." I kept my eyes on her as I undressed. In a word, she was magnificent. If I were asked to describe what a sex goddess looks like, I would describe Sonia. As I threw my boxers on the floor, she started to take off her heeled shoes, and I asked her to leave them on, please. She smiled and said, "My kind of man," and then pulled down her panties and stepped out of them. We stayed on that bed and played until the pilot announced that we were leaving on our final course for Los Angeles, where we would have to refuel before continuing on to Hawaii. We got dressed, and the flight attendant, yes, her private jet even had one, served us lunch while we refueled. Once we were on our way again, I was pulled to the aft cabin again. When I asked why she felt it was necessary to make love non-stop, or at least as non-stop as I was physically capable of, her answer was this: "Although I said it would take 2 weeks, there's always the possibility that I'll be called back for some emergency issues, so I want to make the most of the time we have." By the time we landed at Kahului Airport on Maui, I was a pretty exhausted dude. We spent half of our first day there buying clothes and toiletries we would need during our stay, and the other half lying on the beach and enjoying the sun. In the evening, we went out to dinner, after which we went back to the high-rise she rented, or owned as far as I knew, where she did her best to rape me again. The whole time, from the moment she walked into my office until our first night in the high-rise, I asked myself what was wrong with her idiot husband. She was gorgeous, a tigress in bed and rich, what I would call the complete package, and he was cheating on her? It didn't make any sense to me. We spent 4 glorious days making love, dancing at night and lying on the beach during the day before the thing she was talking about happened, and we were back on the plane heading home to deal with the urgent business that had arisen. The flight home was like flying to Hawaii, and I was a scorched shell when, stumbling, I stepped off the plane when we got back to Denver. In her limo that was taking me back to the office so I could pick up my car, Sonia asked me what I was going to tell my wife about my absence. Nothing. Nothing? And what? You're going to get away with it? I think it's time to stop pretending. To justify what I'm about to tell you, you have to put yourself in my shoes. A super hot woman comes to me and says she wants to take me on an all-expenses-paid trip to Hawaii, and I, of course, agree to the offer. But I did it knowing you were making a mistake. It was one of two things. There are two Robert Daltons in town. If your husband was cheating with the wife of the other Robert Dalton, then you picked the wrong Robert to fly off with. If he cheated with Mary Alice Dalton, I've been divorced from her for over 3 years. Well, I picked the right Dalton. Unless the other Dalton's wife is also named Mary Alice. Anyway, I got what I wanted. I gave it to my hubby. If anything, Bob, I'd really like to spend a full 2 weeks with you. I could say the same thing, Sonia. In fact, I'd prefer a few years if I could get them. Would you consider spending time here with me? There are no sandy beaches here, but there are plenty of places to dine and dance. And, of course, lots of other things. As long as there's lots of other stuff, you can count on me. What about your hubby? He was served with divorce papers the day we left. Your place or mine? My place! It's closer, she said and told the chauffeur to take us home.